All right, welcome back, everybody, and thanks for joining us on Getting In, a College Coach Conversation. It is May, and in fact, right now when this airs, it's May 27th, and 2 days from now is a huge day in the college finance world. It is 529 Plan Day, May 29th, 529 Plan Day, go figure. And so we figured we would take advantage of that and talk about 529 plans today. And joining me for that is my colleague, Michelle Richardson, who is also a former financial aid officer. She worked at the Mayo Clinic College of Medicine. She's also a former executive at both Chase Student Loans and Sallie Mae. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Beth.
All right, well, we're talking 529 plans. And just in general terms, remind families that this is a great way to save for college. What are a few key components that families need to know about 529 plans?
Sure. So, first of all, let me give you the disclaimer. 529 plans are an investment, and I am not a financial advisor or a tax advisor. So, we're going to talk about the components that make up 529 plans. But basically, they are a tax advantaged saving for college plan where the growth or the earnings is not taxed or the tax is deferred as long as the contributions and the growth are used to pay for college expenses. So a lot of times we get asked, well, what college
Yeah,
expenses? So,
exactly.
so it would be, obviously tuition and fees, room and board is a big one. I think families, need to be aware of. Also required books and supplies and tuition. Excuse me, and technology rather. They are also available for K through 12 tuition expenses up to $10,000 annually.
That's interesting. But one thing I know that they're not available for are things like test prep. So even though you're doing standardized testing to get into college, it's not considered an expense you could use a 529 plan funds for, correct? Things like
Correct.
that in
Correct.
ancillary things. Okay. So you guys talk a lot, or are college coach finance experts, and quite honestly, educators, and quite honestly, even those of us who are more on the admission side of things, we do talk to families often about the benefits of saving for college. What do you say to people or families who haven't started yet to save?
Right. The first two things I always tell families is you can start small and it's never too late to start. So I, personally wasn't able to start until a little bit later in my career for my kids as far as saving for college. And also, even though I know we're talking about 529 plan and 529 plan day, but there are other options available for families for saving for college, like traditional savings accounts or money markets or certificates of deposit. So know that there's a lot of options out there, and it's never too late, and you can always start small and adjust. I think families need to know that they don't have to be locked in to a dollar amount, or if you are concerned about the having an investment and maybe you're more risk adverse, if you don't have to use an investment account like a 529 to save, you have other avenues to look at.
Got it. One thing that I've heard you guys mention is state income tax incentive. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. So, one thing that I haven't touched on yet is every state offers a state sponsored 529 plan. So, one thing when we get asked in talking to families, well, if every state offers a 529 plan, what plan do I go with? And obviously, we're not giving, investment advice, but I think it is good for families to know that about 30 states, if you are a resident in that state, they offer a state income tax incentive if you open a 529 plan in that state. So there could be tax deductions up to various amounts, but that might be something families look for initially if they're considering a 529 plan.
Is there one place they can go to see which 30 states do that, or is it more you just kind of have to check with the state where you're in, that you live in?
Um, that's a great question. I use, and most of us use the resource called savingforcollege.com.
Mhm.
It's a very, I would say, unbiased website that has all the state 529 plan information. It's updated. It has performance history, and they do a very good job talking about the various uh, news points and changes, if there are any tax changes with 529 plans and other saving for college vehicles.
Got it. Okay. And one other question before we move on from the topic of just kind of getting started. I know that the American Relief Act, I think I was just reading that there are going to be some child payments coming up. What do you think about, is that a good way to maybe start saving?
Well, I think it's something that families should consider because I just recently read an article that said about 39 million households, covering almost 90% of the children in our country, are set to receive these up to $300 a month payments per child,
Hmm.
and I believe they're starting in July. So if families, most of them might not have been expecting this. So it might be a good opportunity for families to look at maybe using those dollars to start a saving for college plan or beef up maybe what they've already started to save for college. So it's a nice opportunity for families and something for them definitely to consider if they're financially able to do so.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, anytime it's money, kind of found money that you weren't expecting, if you don't need it to put food on the table, and for those kinds of things, it could be a great opportunity to start feeling like you're doing something towards the college saving process. So I love that idea. So we talked a little bit about states maybe that might incentivize families. They have their own 529 plans, but are there other things that they're doing for lower income families to get them to open 529 plans?
Yes, and actually, we have a blog coming out talking specifically about this, but there are some states that offer 529 plan grants for lower income families in that state. And so states will often do a seed contribution. So, for example, Massachusetts, their baby step savings plan will give an initial $50 if
Mhm.
residents in that state open their baby step plan. And some states will also offer matches, whether it's dollar for dollar
Mhm.
or certain percentages. Like Louisiana will match up to 14% of families' contributions. And so, again, in a way, some families are leaving a little money on the table, and another thing, kind of going back to the comment I made about starting small. um, you can open many of these plans for an initial $25 contribution. And so because I think sometimes if families look at the cost of college today, it can be daunting to think,
Yes.
oh my gosh, I cannot save that much. Why bother?
Right.
And so, and I think, anything that you can try to save early on and maybe get a tax advantage and not pay tax on the earnings and the growth might be an opportunity again for families, and to maybe look at your state 529 plan if they offer grants like this.
Yeah. I mean, if it's basically free money if you meet the
Right.
qualifications, right? And who would ever turn down free money? So,
Right.
absolutely something to look at. So when I introduced this segment, I did say, this is a huge day in the college finance world. I was slightly tongue in cheek. There are probably other days that are a bigger deal, but that said, there are states planning to celebrate 529 Plan Day, and I'm just curious, how they're doing that. What are some ways in which states are celebrating?
Right, right. So, well, if you're an Alaska resident, you can go to a few different places and get free ice cream across the state if you open a 529 plan. But other states like Washington, Arizona, Iowa, the state where I came from, Maryland, they are offering opportunities to win $529 or even $1,529 to open a new 529 plan for residents. Wisconsin and Utah and Minnesota are offering matches for new accounts that are opened in May by the end of the month. And I know we're getting kind of close to the end of the month, but Virginia residents, they probably will really want to listen up because the state of Virginia plan is giving away three $10,000 contributions to new Invest 529 accounts that are opened with at least $25 by June 1st. So, take note of that if you're from Virginia. And the other thing I think the listener should know is anybody can open a 529 plan. It doesn't have to be you, a parent. It could be the grandparents. It could be, an aunt or uncle. So that is something, if they're a resident and are looking for something to start saving for college, they could look at.
Got it. Really quickly, because we're coming up on the time, is there a downside if the grandparent opens it or if it's opened in the name of the child? Any advice on, whose name it should be in? Should somebody other than the parent open it, or should the parent open it?
Yeah, great question. So currently, if anybody outside of the parents opened a 529 plan, that could negatively impact any need-based financial aid eligibility. With the FAFSA simplification that is starting in the academic year of 2023, that is changing or looking to be changed. So non-parent or non-custodial parent 529 plans may not negatively impact moving forward in 2023. We're still getting some information on that. And the other thing to touch on as far as who the account name should, whose name should be on the account. The one thing to know with the 529 plan is whoever opens the account is the participant or the owner, and then the student is the beneficiary.
Got it.
And 529 plans currently, if they are opened by a custodial parent, they do not typically, they very minimally impact need-based financial aid eligibility.
Got it.
So,
right, because that's income-based, a lot of that financial aid. I learn things. I learn them occasionally. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, you're welcome, Beth. Happy to be here.
Great. So thanks again to Michelle, to all my guests this week. Next week, Sally is hosting. We are talking about ROTC, letters of recommendation, and making college more affordable through tuition reciprocity programs. So you're going to want to check that out. Again, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. The more we get, the easier it is for others to find us and to get what we hope is great information that we're sharing with everyone. If you have any questions, send them to us at Facebook or on Instagram. We are at College Coach BH. And also I have my own Instagram at Elizabeth Heaton 92. You could also email your questions, gettingin.voiceamerica@gmail.com. If you are curious about things we've talked about in the past, if you go to our blog and you do a search for a particular topic, it will also pop up any podcast that we've done on that topic. So it's a little bit of a sort of a search engine in a way that you wouldn't anticipate it. And then don't forget, because we are here every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific.